Let's get ready to podcast. Oh, here we are with Brody, Carly, and Daniel in the background, making us some good footage on the side. Today, we're going to talk about winter roofing, and this is actually a special request by Brick, Leighton. He's asked us today to do something on winter roofing and if it can be done. And I think this is a perfect topic for us today because there's a lot of, I would say, not a lot, but there's a bit of misinformation going on out there. And I think there's a lot of, we'll say, desperate roofing companies that are just saying, oh, yeah, you can roof at minus 40, no problem. You know, you go, guys. Yeah, give us your money. It's going to be all good. I'm not in that camp, though I'm not completely against winter roofing. We do it, and the only reason why we do it is because it can be done. Though you got to be choosy with your conditions. I think number one, and Mike Holmes brings this up, is that the guys, when they get cold, they tend to do not so good of a job. You know, they kind of just, their fingers get all frozen, the equipment starts to get messed up, and they're demoralized by quite a bit. So if a homeowner is going to get a roof done in the wintertime, I would say just be ready for a project to drag on potentially for a couple of weeks. You know, even now we've had jobs that were supposed to take 3 days and didn't get done for over a week, you know. Brody, what's your opinion on winter roofing?
Well, you hit the nail on the head with your first remark. I mean, quality certainly does suffer. It depends on the conditions, obviously. I mean, there's days that are negative 5 or 10, and then there's days that are negative 15, 20, and obviously quality would suffer to different degrees based on the conditions. But I mean, so long as you're careful, so long as the products are not compromised by the temperatures that they're exposed to, quality can still be maintained, although it's difficult at times. But
when I think about temperature restrictions, there's only one product. I mean, it's not just one product, but the one I'm most familiar with that has restrictions would be EuroShield. It's the rubber shingle. I think they claim anything that's minus 12 or more, you shouldn't install that product. But as for asphalt shingles, I know that you can install those. They say, yeah, you can install them in minus 40. I don't think it's a good idea. But the main thing that I could say to a homeowner about why not to roof in the wintertime is that you're wind vulnerable. So the seals on the bottom of the shingles, which keep them glued down, aren't going to seal till spring. Doesn't mean they're never going to seal, but sometimes the shingles will be bent and they won't look as good until finally a warm day happens. And sometimes we can get those days in February or even January. Sometimes we get a nice weather cycle. But I generally still say it's okay to do as long as you're doing a full felt good underlayment underneath everything, because then if some shingles do fly off, you just put some more in there. But I would say that wintertime roofing really should be more of as it needs to get done and it can't wait. If it can't wait, then yeah, definitely get your roof done in the wintertime. If you can wait, I would say, do it in the springtime.
I would agree. I mean, you're going to see a lot of snow and ice melt throughout the winter months, considering we live so close to the mountains and Chinooks are prevalent. If you do have, say, blown off shingles, or the shingles are deteriorated to the point where leak potential is there, it would become more of an emergency repair type situation where a re-roof during sub-zero temperatures might be worthwhile, considering the snow melt and everything else. And just touching on what you said a minute ago about misshapen materials and whatnot because of these negative temperatures, as you said, curled up shingles and things like that are misshapen. Because even though the shingles are stacked neatly on a pallet throughout the summer months, they can kind of conform to one another and sag and things like that. And as soon as it gets cold, they will freeze in that position.
Right.
And they'll be loaded onto the roof in that same condition, and then we unwrap a bundle, and they're almost not installable because of the shape of the shingle itself. So that would further, I guess, impact the ability for the shingle to seal properly.
Right.
And I mean, in that case, you'll just pray for heavy snowfall throughout the entire winter months in order to prevent blow-off. So,
right.
Yeah, it's a
no,
bit of a
the
game.
heavy snow would prevent your shingles from blowing off. But it's, I would say another thing is it's pretty dangerous to roof in the wintertime. We actually it was just yesterday I got a call. Somebody fell off the roof, one of our job sites.
I got a message about that as well.
Yeah, but they didn't hit the ground.
Hey, lucky them.
Yeah, and it's not because they're Jesus. It's because they're wearing a rope.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a familiar conversation.
Right.
I could say. The anniversary was, what's the 15th? 10 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
The anniversary.
Right.
3-year anniversary.
Wow, man.
No, not an excuse. I mean, I was technically brain damaged before the accident, but I think that may have only just... Yeah, I can't use that as an excuse, as Carly said. But yeah, Bo sent me a message as well about it, and I just told him, hey, tell him my story and tell him he's well, good on him for being sure to wear his fall protection. So
yeah, I think that anytime somebody falls off the roof, it's a good time to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we did get a near miss report, an incident report filled out, and just doing our due diligence. But you know, at the end of the day, like, we can't force everybody to wear a rope. You can't watch somebody 24/7 and make sure that their rope is on, you know. But looks like protocols were followed, and we had a good day yesterday. That was, like, honestly, that was probably the best news I've heard in like a month.
Yeah, you know, that his fall arrest was there to protect him when he needed it, that he was uninjured, and that a near miss report or an incident report was filed. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, protocol has been followed, and that's certainly that's fantastic to hear.
You know, that's why we have them. That's why we have protocols. But yeah, that's the thing, man. And you fell in wintertime too. So I would say, like, the odds of you falling off the roof in the wintertime are probably like 10 times higher, something like that. It got to be at least 10 times.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you could have those really frosty mornings. I mean, I think the lack of snow is more dangerous than full snow coverage, because frost is extremely slippery, even on the shingles themselves.
But wooden shingles, though, too. If you're on a
shake
roof,
is even worse. Yeah, shake is even worse.
And that's the thing. Some people don't understand this. I mean, that's why, I mean, as a homeowner, one should make sure that all the maintenance is done before winter hits. Because once you have a leak on your roof, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to call this roofing company. They're going to come fix it. It's like sometimes you show up and it's like, no, I can't go on your roof because I don't want to die. You know, it's like you have to get on the roof to actually hook up the rope. So it's like you have a safety line.
That's just like a call from a couple weeks ago. It was, replace tin gooseneck with a Primex. Mm-hmm. Went out there. It happened to be a metal roof. It was probably 6 or 7/12.
Oh, yeah, you can't get on that.
There was no access whatsoever because, of course, I need to set up the fall arrest at the peak of the roof, and I couldn't even get there on that kind of roof, so I had to, unfortunately, give him some bad news.
Delay it.
But, yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, there's no amount of money that can really incentivize you to go and risk your life. I mean, it's like, our minimum charge, $325 plus GST. You could even double that or triple that or whatever. If I fall off and I break my legs, it's like you can't put a price on unbroken legs. You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you might be tempted at times to push the limit a little bit. There have been some calls where, I mean, I looked at it and I thought, I could do it. I'll have to be extra careful. Not that there was any extra incentive to do the work, I guess, other than trying to help push the company forward, getting jobs done.
Right.
But yeah, there are those odd jobs where you have to make that call and decide to save it for a more appropriate day. And
they will come. You know, there's always going to be better weather out there to come and do that for you. Now, another thing I think that is an issue with winter roofing is, and that's why I generally say don't do it in over -15, is because the shingles get extremely brittle, and we use pneumatic nail guns, and like setting your nail gun perfectly is pretty tough. So like I've seen it happen a lot where people will be nailing and it'll just smash right through the shingle. Like they don't, like, they need to land flush. They can't be going in crooked. They can't be stuck out. I can actually find a lot of winter installations. I know when they happen. It happens with the capping. So if anybody doesn't know, that's so you got the ridge of the roof kind of like that, and then you put the cap over top of that like that. You'll see in the summertime a whole bunch of popped nails through it. So the shingles will warm up, soften up, and then because the nails didn't land flush, they're sticking through. So there's only two ways to fix that. One, hammer them all down and then glue all the new holes and it looks like crap, or rip off all your capping and do it again. But I'll even see it in the middle of the roof. And so sometimes like a whole roof just needs to be redone because it was done when it was way too cold.
Right. It makes me wonder about the allowable installation conditions that these manufacturers present, like up to -40. I mean, then again, there's just no real temperature.
There's no temperature restriction.
And blow-throughs are prevalent, as you said. I mean, after a certain threshold, and that tends to be, right around that -15 mark.
Yeah.
And although these pneumatic nailers have depth gauges or
some
dials, some better than others, but even then, the shallowest depth sometimes is inadequate.
Well, you're basically hand banging at that rate.
Yeah.
I know with Boss Stitch, it's like they don't have a very sensitive setting. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Nothing in between. Some of them have a nice in between where you could land them flush. But I think if you are gonna roof in minus 25, -40, whatever, you should just hand bang. That's the only way you're gonna be able to do it without blowing through the shingles.
Yeah,
cracking
of
them.
course. And so I mean, the installation itself is quite difficult. Not to mention the shape of the product itself, if it's malformed or bent or broken because of the sub-zero temperatures. It's definitely tricky. Sometimes you get lucky though, and you don't have any product issues, but then you're up against the severe temperatures, and then installation gets tricky, blow-throughs and a number of different issues. So
that's I've always disliked roofing in the winter, but I'd say that service calls are doable most of the time.
I mean, that comes with its own issues as well, because outside of asphalt products, although the Duraflow exhaust units and ventilation units that we install, they would withstand temperatures up to -40 degrees, which they advertise. But even recently, it was probably -12, -15 or so, and they can actually crack pretty severely from pneumatic fasteners.
Oh yeah,
or pneumatic nailers.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So like I've made the mistake of, I guess I couldn't call it a mistake. It wasn't terribly cold, but you can still split the flange around the vent.
Totally.
Right? And so you have extra sealants and whatnot to touch that up. But luckily it's never too extreme, but
well, sometimes it is. Sometimes I've done it before where the vent was totally garbage when I was done with it, particularly with plumbing vents. They get right brittle and they'll smash, and it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to the supply shop again.
Right.
It's always good to have some extras on you, but sometimes you don't.
Yeah, of course. It kind of depends on what kind of vehicle you're driving, whether or not. Well, the vehicle is one thing. The kind of organization that the driver has inside of his vehicle is also extremely important.
Right.
And I mean, whether or not you can organize products and materials adequately within the vehicle is a game of its own. But yeah, having extra materials is a difficult thing to do sometimes. Because I mean, in my case, I'm doing such a wide variety of repairs and installs and things. It's hard for me to keep a wide variety of materials with the vehicle that I'm driving.
Oh, there's so much. Yeah, you can't prepare for everything, but. I find, but I mean, I would say like for full re-roofs, I mean, you got to be picky and choosy with your weather. I think that there's some days that are beauty, and this is better than doing it in plus 30. Because plus 30 comes with its issues too.
Yeah.
So, if I roof it, between 0 to 10, -10, that's like pretty gravy. It's actually pretty comfortable because you're not sweating. Profusely, and you can still do a pretty good job. But I mean, out of all the winter installations we've done, we haven't had any issues. They're all good. So I would say that it's okay to do that. Primarily stick with the service call is a good idea. I think what you've been seeing too is skylights that are leaking air. That's a big issue in the wintertime.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do roof inspections even when the call is for an attic inspection, I try to get up there when I can, and I sometimes find skylights I can lift off the curb by even 2 inches, like some that are
Seen that
completely
before, yeah.
completely loose, which is problematic, of course. But yeah, there's a wide variety of jobs, repairs, installations that could be done when conditions are less favorable, i.e. negative 30 degrees. It can be really tricky to get up on the roof and do certain vent installs. But as for insulation top-ups, baffle installations, bathroom fan exhaust, HVAC installations and things like that are all fairly...
Not too bad.
In other words, we're grateful to have those opportunities throughout the winter months to do work like that.
What's great in the attic is there's no wind chill for the most part.
Yeah,
you can be sheltered from the elements, and while you're in the attic, you can also see if there's roof problems. But yeah, there's always a rush at the end of the year for everybody to do their roof, and for good reason, because we can't. So like the vast majority of the winter, you just physically can't do a roof, and that's my issue. Is that I see companies out there saying that, oh, it's great to do a roof in the wintertime. Oh, it's so fantastic. Like, it's nothing. It's like, man, there's a lot of service calls to do. You don't have to push misinformation to do, to make some money during the wintertime, keep the doors open. And I think that's why they do it. And it's misleading, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they might think that only because they know the snow will cover the crap work they did while they were up there for a few months before it all melts, not to mention all the debris they left all over the property.
That's
things
another
like that.
really
There's
good
a few
point.
other things.
Clean
Yeah,
up.
debris control is extremely difficult as well. You have to go as far as tarping every area directly below where you're working in order to safeguard against having to return in the springtime to do a thorough nail rake and debris cleanup.
I think that any roofing done in the wintertime, by standard, you should tell the clients that, hey, you might have to come back in the spring, or us as the company might have to come back in the spring to do another cleanup, because you can't, like, getting every single nail, almost impossible. I've done great tarp jobs, and I've had no issues before, but sometimes it's like just things happen, and it's like, no, we got to come back. Like, actually, we just did a job not too far from here, and I had to let the client know that, babe, we're definitely going to have to come back in the spring. And she's like, oh, I think the cleanup was so good. I'm like, yeah, once the snow melts, you're probably not going to think that. And I would rather have a client ready for it instead of surprised. Because sometimes, a homeowner, just like they think everything is great, and then the snow melts, and then they're like, what the hell is this?
The honesty rules in that case.
Just be straight with them,
I mean, you notice things they wouldn't. You know where to look for this type of debris. And, for you to mention that to the client is... obviously very valuable to them and to us as well, because of our reputation kind of hanging in the mix. If they were to find an unholy amount of debris in their yard come springtime and they didn't hear from us about it, nor did they hear from the crew about it, and nor did we reach out and try to clean things up, that could be a negative review for us, right? So
we need our good reviews, man. We thrive on our 5-star reviews. We have them for a reason, because we're diligent. We take our time, but not because we never screw up, but because we help people out when they need the help.
Yeah, of course.
So I found a lot of our, not a lot, but some of the best reviews we've got was that from people that had a little warranty issue, and we didn't give them any excuses, no bull crap. We just said, hey, we messed up, and we're here to fix it. And as long as nobody's hurt, I mean, anything can be fixed. That's the way I see it. Like,
of course.
It could be framing, it could be anything, insulation, whatever. It might be expensive, but like you can't replace somebody's health, but you can replace the physical, aspects of a home.
Right, of course.
And
I had a conversation with a client last week. It was a warranty repair that I was on. And we had been there this is probably the 3rd visit in order to try to rectify this issue. And, of course, we are taken aback by it. We're apologetic, right? But they were just ecstatic that we were there without any question and immediately to try to resolve the issue again and again if that's necessary. So I agree with a good amount of the reviews, the positive reviews that we get are because of our desire to set things straight if necessary, right?
That's the right thing to do,
Holding ourselves accountable.
Yeah,
For the work.
Yeah, but I know we have been getting a fair bit of warranty issues with our HVAC setups. But I think that for us, it's been a learning curve, and as long as we fix it when it happens, I think that's the main thing. But yeah, no, we've learned a thing or two about proper HVAC setup.
Yeah,
I could say that.
Yeah, of course. Not only HVAC setup, but I also explained to one of the clients recently that more recently some of the product manufacturers have actually started to host seminars in town, something they didn't do prior.
Right.
And I explained to the client that we've learned a few things, and now that there are some minor adjustments I'm going to make in the attic pertaining to ventilation and things like that, because we finally were able to attend seminars. They were able to explain things in a way that was maybe a little bit more difficult to fathom based on the manuals and installation instructions we have. But yeah, information like that is important. Transparency with the client is important, right? So rather than going up there and making all these changes thinking, oh, they'll never see it, blah, 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 I rather explain to them, that I see this, and I think that there are improvements I can make in order to create, a better system in the long run.
Well, I mean, yeah, if we knew how to do it right the first time, we would have done it.
Right.
That's the thing. So it's not like blatant neglect where it's just like, oh, I'm just going to cut some corners and screw this guy over. No, I mean, our legitimate intent is to never have to have them call us again. We want a roof that stands the test of time and doesn't come back to haunt us or give our client any headaches. And unfortunately, we can't do that 100% of the time, but we're doing our best.
Yeah, we are only human, right? Our crew members are only people, and people make mistakes.
To err is human.
But, yeah, I mean, we've got, the mindset that we have and the attention to detail. And again, I'd say that, our accountability for the work that we do, I think, is above all else. I think, well, maybe not above all else, but equally as important as the quality of work that we do, right?
That makes us the best roofing company in the city, I think, because we care, and we get things done. I see it all the time. They just, once the homeowner's paid, they get forgotten about. It's like, okay, next.
Yeah, of course. And I hear a lot of horror stories as well about a roofing company that came by in the summertime and had all these great reviews or, all of these warranties on their product, and then winter rolls around, they have issues, they contact the client, they contact the company. Company has since folded, right? Or they are just not answering, or they can't be contacted for who knows what reason. But yeah, I think that's something that sets us apart from the rest also, is our ability to actually communicate with clients when it's important at any time of the year, and be there to rectify any issue that's present.
Well, that comes to our mantra, really, quality over quantity.
Right.
And I think that's not just a business model, but a life mantra, because you see that, the homeowners that usually get screwed see the quantity of the reviews, but they don't see the quality of the reviews. And, as an unsuspecting person, I think we've all done this before. We just say, look at the companies, 5 stars, that looks great. Whenever I check, I always look at the worst reviews. So even if they're a 4.8 or whatever, I want to see worst case scenario with these guys. And then I'll also look through all the reviews and see, are they generic? Has this person left, this person's only left one review in their whole life, and then it's like a couple sentences like, great job, would hire again, or something like that. A lot of those guys are just paid actors from India that are pumping up the numbers for them.
Could be. Yeah, certainly could be.
It is.
We like to see paragraphs, of course, when reading reviews. Not that it's always necessary, but it shows that the client valued us enough to actually write more about the company and actually provide more and more insight for potential customers as well, right?
Oh, well, yeah, like the one recent review we got, man, the guy wrote us like a stellar good review, like it's a good quality. Yeah, right. Sometimes we get those thumbs up, good job kind of thing, but I think you can tell a company that has mostly fake reviews over real reviews. And you'll even have the people, you'll see sometimes in the worst reviews, they'll be like, these reviews are fake. They're fake because this is the way it actually is. You know, don't believe it. You know, it's a conspiracy.
Right. Well, some companies might think it's difficult to get those kind of reviews, but if you just put honesty in front of everything else and you focus more on quality rather than quantity, people will recognize that fairly quickly,
Totally.
right? Like I might be incorrect, but the review you're referring to
Was your review?
Jeff, right? That was a big paragraph, name dropped a bunch, which was great. But again, the fact that we were able to show up right when he needed us to repair any issues that, even in this case, it was extremely minor too, right? It was that piece of plywood that was lifted that he thought might have leak potential, blah, blah, blah. It does not, big or small, you know, we'll be there. We'll take care of it as soon as possible. And for that reason, stellar review out of it, right? And so a lot of people, or a lot of companies rather, would either create a bit of a triage in terms of repairs that are necessary, warranties that are worthwhile, you know, I guess,
Well,
addressing.
I see warranty as top priority when they come in. But I mean, there are those ones that are minor. You got to kind of assess how the client is acting. You know, I've always been a fan of, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. You know, so if it's a big deal to them, it's a big deal to me. But at the same time, I mean, if we have a small warranty call that comes in during, we'll say, a big condensation storm where there's tons of people that have like legit emergencies going on, I would, you know, tell the client that. I would say, hey, look, we got some like big time emergencies right now. Is it okay if we get there a month from now or 2 weeks from now? And if they say yeah, then it's like, then, you know, now we have an agreement and it's all good, you know. But you know, you do have to do triage to an extent,
Right.
You know, during those rare circumstances. I think we had that happen last year. When was it? Like last couple weeks of January, where we just like our phone was ringing until like midnight.
I think that crazy swing was actually January of this year, or like it was basically a year ago now.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that was mid-January of this year.
That was insane.
I referred to that time period quite a bit with clients as well, just to explain to them that these upgrades that we would perform, say insulation or HVAC, ventilation, things like this, it will certainly help to reduce the impact that these fluctuations will have, but it could never actually erase the, I guess, negative impact that it can have, right? Because when you go from negative 30 to plus 10 in the matter of like 10 hours, it's a fact of, or I guess it's nature itself that can't be tamed, right? And when you have that kind of thing happen, you can make improvements that can help to lessen the impact, but you can never eliminate it completely. So.
In terms of like ventilation, you mean?
Well, this is more condensation issues, right, that people are experiencing, and how insulation, ventilation, and HVAC are the three biggest contributors to that issue. And so we perform these upgrades in all of these areas, but if we have such a major swing like that, the impact would be less so, but you can never completely eliminate that because of that's the thing.
I would always try. I mean, I think that there is a way, but sometimes, I've come out just places. I mean, everything that we do every single time is going to improve the situation.
Right.
Like we've never made a situation worse with what we know, but there's some things that Calgary has done with the codes that have kind of messed things up. Like the fire code they just kind of prioritize fire over ventilation, and now we have these exterior vents instead of soffit vents, and they get buried by the snow. Well, how are you going to bring the air in, the fresh air, the fresh dry air that keeps the place dry when everything's buried under snow? I mean, it's kind of, you know, I mean, I know it's not. They still work, but they work at less of a capacity. And another thing is that these designer homes that they make, these things are meant for like, you know. For climates that don't go past -10, you know. Yeah,
they get so tricky with the with the blueprint of the property itself, and they seem to spend less time considering ventilation necessities and things like that. You see these crazy designs, and you go inside the attic, and you're thinking, like, what were they smoking when they built this house, you know? And it's really difficult to improve certain situations because of the framing of the property itself.
Yeah, exactly. The perforation or permeation, I think it is, through the vapor barrier is a big one. You know, it's kind of interesting when you get into the science of it all, because it's like, it's like almost like the Matrix in a way, because like nothing is solid. Like, everything is mostly empty space.
Yeah.
So, so you don't think that, like, even though you have a vapor barrier, water is still getting through. The water molecules just kind of wiggle around and get through, and then it just goes
Exactly. Like maybe 1 in 100 leak repairs or leak calls that I'm inspecting, move away the insulation. There's no rip in the vapor barrier, right? There's a big stain on the vapor barrier. No tear, no pinholes, nothing, right? So as you said, it's porous. The vapor barrier, right?
Absolutely nothing is actually sealed. But what can help though, I mean, is like if you have a big hole in your vapor barrier, that's for sure contributing. It makes what happens is the speed of which the humid air gets into the attic is a lot more. That's the thing, so it can overwhelm the ventilation. So like it's like I refer to it like it's like a pool liner, except for in reverse. The water's up here, and if there's any holes in the pool liner, it's just dumping water into the attic. And if you don't have enough air circulation to get that out of there, then it's you're gonna have a frost problem.
Right. Well, then I was reminded of insulation and how I mentioned that plays a big role in condensation issues. And typically, if you are insulated adequately, you will absorb the majority of the water that could be problematic. If you have, like, say, for example, ventilation overall is poor. Say the HVAC systems are also poor, but you have an R60 value of insulation. You might not see an issue for a long, long time until that finally works its way all the way through the insulation.
And that's a bad
right?
thing.
Yeah, it's a bad thing.
That's a bad thing, because you could have a huge mold issue up there and you don't even know.
Right.
Yeah, by the time, that's the way I see it, when somebody has a condensation issue, this has been going on for years. They're usually like, I usually get this all the time. Oh, this hasn't happened for like 3 years. I've been living here this whole time. It's just strange that all of a sudden it happened now. I was like, well, this has actually been going on for a long time.
Right.
But I do think, though, to a degree, that more insulation prevents condensation, because it slows the release of the heat. Because if you go from like really hot to really cold, it condenses. If you slow it down, it doesn't, condense all at once, and then then the airflow can pull it out from the soffits and out the top of the roof. So
yeah, if you have adequate amounts of insulation, there might be no heat at all that actually permeates into the attic space or interacts with the cold air in the attic, because it will dissipate slowly. So another
slowly,
thing I go through with clients, of course, the interior temperature of the home will warm the ceiling, and the heat will transfer to the insulation. If you have very adequate amounts, that heat will actually dissipate.
It all works together.
Yeah.
Everything works together. I think that building codes are a little bit too minimal. Like, if I was to get a house built custom, I would want the best poly there is. You can't just use any poly up there. I'm not totally familiar on the code with poly, but I think that thickness plays a big role in how much permeation you get.
Yeah, of course.
It
would still be porous, but it would take a lot more time for it to actually pass through the vapor barrier.
And but I mean, as I know though, is no insulation at all can discolor. You'll actually get the condensation. You'll get the frost. You'll actually see it on your ceiling.
Yeah, that was a call that was actually the Sunday call I did. He had probably 6 square feet of his ceiling.
I saw
totally.
The that one,
yeah. And he said, I went up in the attic. I didn't notice anything. I said, well, did you crawl over towards the master bathroom? He said, no. I got there, and of course, soffit had blown away the insulation completely in that area, right? So
every time you see that, you got to put in rigid insulation of some kind, like bat insulation or foam or whatever you got. Because that's going to keep happening over and over again.
This was a west-facing side. It was like west-southwest areas, because there was some. Yeah, exactly, and he had no neighboring home coverage in those areas. So a lot of air intake through the soffits in that area, and there were some other patches on the southwest side. But his quote outlined insulation bats. I mean, while I was there, I didn't charge him. It was the inspection charge, but I had leveled the insulation in that area. Exactly. I mean, that certainly helps a sale. So I kind of re-insulated best I could, and I explained to him that he would need some heavy-duty insulation bats in order to prevent that. I told him, I mean, this is going to happen again unless you address this problem.
You know,
so
it's crazy, you know, the learning curve with this in this industry, because it seems like, you know, there's so much you can learn further and further. And I think we're at the top of our game right now, but I never want to tell myself I know everything, because if I say that, then I'll stop learning. Because there's always bigger and better things to do. But I was actually at a taxi a little while ago here, and the guy was talking about how his, I think it was his stepdad was a roofer. And this guy had, surprisingly, no respect for roofers, just saying that basically a monkey could do it. And I'm just like, you know, and then he's, you know, he thinks he's so much better because he's, you know, he's educated and things like that. And I'm just like, man, like roofing is a huge subject. It is a massive. It's like, okay, I mean, what about EPDM? What about tar and gravel? What about torch on? What about you know, slate roofs and tile and these crazy ones where there's just, like, there's some people are basically artists. Then you have to like measure everything out, and it's down to a science on how to do some of these roofs. I mean, yeah, I think asphalt is probably, you know, one of the bottom of the barrel kind of like in terms of like skill, but there's still a lot to know.
It's the most common.
But there's still a lot to know. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to do it,
right? But
you can't let just anybody go onto the roof. You know, I've seen people that have been doing it for 20 years and they're still doing it wrong. You know, so there's a lot that goes into it, like ventilation, insulation.
Yeah, of course.
For that codes.
Yeah, for that very reason, there's a red seal for roofing.
What's up, Carly?
Question.
Okay, I hope you guys can hear me.
Ooh, excuse me.
Should a homeowner do maintenance yearly because our insurance companies just changed how they pay for roof claims?
That's a good question. I would say, I mean, it depends. I mean, ask your insurance company what they qualify, you know, what they need you to qualify for. Because, I mean, every insurance company is a little bit different. So if they require you to do yearly, then I would say yes. I know that sometimes they will they'll give you a call and say you have to change your roof because they know how, like, when your roof was installed. I think I think that, you know, a yearly inspection of your roof might be a little bit excessive, but I would say that I think it would be not a bad idea to check things over before the snow starts packing up on your roof. But generally, what you can do for roof inspection is just from the ground. You know, just if you can see all around the whole area of your roof, if you don't see any shingles lifted or missing, you're probably okay. But I mean, hey, if you wanna give us a call, it's $145 plus GST. We'll come there really on a yearly basis, not a problem. And I mean, if you do a yearly inspection, that's definitely going to, I would say, reduce, you know, any potential issues. But I don't think it's going to have any, like, I don't think your insurance is going to be like, oh, you didn't do a yearly inspection, so you're not, you don't qualify for insurance. But that being said, you know, you might need multiple yearly or multiple times per year inspections because a hailstorm might roll by, and you might be curious, is there a hail claim? Because if you don't claim hail within 2 years, your claim becomes void. So, you know, if there's a big windstorm or something, you might want to check to see if your seals are still good. You know, so there's a lot of things, you know, that you might want to inspect for during a year. But I would say the main thing, I'm a little bit disorganized here, sorry about that, but I would say it depends how old your roof is. So, I mean, if you just had a brand new roof installed, do you need to inspect it every year? Probably not. I would say probably every few years, maybe even maximum every 5 years. But, you know, after year 10, you might want to start doing, you know, annual checkups. But here's the thing. You have to clean your eaves troughs yearly in most cases. So while you're up there, you might as well just, you know, look around. And you don't have to be a roofing professional to know you have problems with your roof. If it looks like it's damaged or worn or just doesn't look right, you know, you're probably right. And you can even do things for free with our company anyway. Is if you see something that you think is not right with your roof, just send, you know, you can text my personal cell phone, 587-227-0517, and I'll tell you yes or no, and I can even give you a price to fix it.
Lovely.
Hey, fantastic answer. I just realized that we don't have the lower thirds your number is normally on the screen, but I think the power was off.
Oh, yeah.
And then for that reason, the Black Magic ATEM system.
That's
Anyways,
all right.
I just recognize that because you started saying your number. I was going to say, I get that question asked often as well by clients, whether or not they should do yearly inspections. I usually also say every 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
depending on the age of the roof. But primarily, I explain to them how, depending on what type of sealants were used, considering there are a lot of areas that need exterior grade sealants, I said, depending on what they use, could be degraded or it could be degrading sooner than other materials.
So true.
And you should know what type of sealants are there, because that's the first thing to go usually, depending on what they use.
A big mistake with a lot of roofers and even like the DIY crowd is that they put asphalt-based sealants as an exterior sealant, when really all that's good for is under the shingles, because it doesn't do any UV protection. Stuff cracks real quick.
And it becomes brittle.
Yeah, so you need a flexible exterior caulking. There's so many types. There's and there's huge arguments over what's the absolute best. Myself, I don't mind using quad out of Home Depot and that, I think that stuff lasts a long time. But MS Detail is also a very nice one to use in certain applications.
They need to actually make caulking tubes of that. I haven't seen it anywhere. If they made MS Detail like caulking gun compatible tubes,
they do
of MS Detail.
They like the MS Detail is in it's in the
So that's an ICO
the
product,
tube,
right?
but they actually have the caulking gun for it.
Yeah, the clear,
It's not very
transparent
good.
one.
It kinda
It
sucks.
just dries up, and you know what I mean. Like you got to throw those aluminum tubes inside of it. But I meant like an actual plastic.
Yeah, I know there's nothing like that.
Yeah, ICO. If you're watching, I'm pretty sure it's an ICO product. But yeah, ICO. We need MS Detail in a caulking tube.
Or Certainteed, compete.
Yeah, or
Compete
Certainteed
with
can
them.
develop something like that. Yeah, they make a whole lot of stuff. I am tried and true M1 has always been my favorite. Actually, I
M1's a
use
good
that around the house a lot.
Wet dry
actually, as well.
application.
Yeah, it's great.
I love that because I could be in a rainstorm and I can apply that stuff. Quad, it's like if there's a little bit of frost on the metal, or if it's raining, it's like it's not going on.
Yeah, M1 it. Also,
M1.
not attainable at your average Home Depot or Lowe's locations. You can get this primarily just at some of the exterior product retailers. I guess Monarch Roofing, we go there a lot. Roof Mart has it, but yeah, M1. I actually this year for Halloween considered being the M1 mascot.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Sweet.
not sure if you've seen it, but at Monarch, as you're going up the stairs, they have a huge. It's like a superhero, and M1 it, and it's like there's a huge cutout, and there's like an actual M1 guy. And he's like, looks like a superhero. I wanted to be him for Halloween, but Carly's like, nobody would know who you are, you know?
Who's gonna get you with caulking?
The M1 guy.
That'd be
Anyways,
sweet. Maybe you could take his job.
M1 is good stuff. Anyways, yeah,
mean.
wow,
That's
yeah,
mean.
wow. Like be an M1 representative.
Try and Google it, but there's no results.
If I started making videos, if I started making a whole bunch of like a YouTube
Good.
channel and just like showcasing M1 and what it can do, they'd probably.
That'd be
I'd get an
sweet.
endorsement, get free M1 for the company.
Let's make it happen, man. Oh, I
Right.
love supporting the products that we
Yeah.
offer. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Certainteed is number one.
Primex.
Primex is also very good.
Yeah.
I do wish Duraflow would get more involved with our supply shops because they're missing the goosenecks. I would much rather be putting on Duraflow goosenecks than Primex just because we use everything else as Duraflow.
The Duraflow goosenecks are also, in other words, the adapters with Primex, they are individually sized.
Mm-hmm.
Primex goosenecks, Duraflow goosenecks, their adapters are
better.
multi-sized. Like their adapters can adapt 2 or 3 different sizes on a single adapter. They have like wider, smaller, and
such
smaller.
a time saver. And another thing I really like about the Duraflow goosenecks is that they're very specific about their warranty. Like I was trying to find warranty information on Primex, which I agree, Primex is a great vent, but you can't find it. I looked around and they're like, oh, contact our customer service for warranty details. I tried to contact them multiple times. Nothing. Just crickets.
We got to get our hands on the box that the Primex vents come in, right? Next time I'm at Roof Mart, I frequent Roof Mart actually quite a bit, only because it's very convenient. It's close to my house.
I like Roof
And they have a lot of the products I need. But they always have them just in this big bin. I should ask them, where's the box for these Primex goosenecks? Because they might have that information on there. Downside of shopping at Roof Mart for Primex, though, is they only carry the most common size adapters, 4-inch and 6-inch. Sometimes I need 5. Sometimes I need, it's usually 5 that they don't have, but that's not a huge deal. But yeah.
Right. Well, let's, you know, I like all the supply shops. I always got, a lot of good things to say about them, but Roof Mart has had the hardest time for me for becoming our main supplier. You know, we've been with Monarch, we've been with Beacon, we're with Beacon right now as our primary supplier, also known as Enercon. And then we've used a Convoy supply, which is also very good. But the Roof Mart just is not contractor friendly in terms of.
I don't think they carry CertainTeed products either.
I don't think they do. No.
So that's also just one of the bigger issues.
One of the big, a little bit limited on their supplies. They're good. I think they're really good for homeowners that are like do-it-yourselfers.
Yeah, you could walk into the showroom and see almost every product they have.
Yeah, they've got. I'm a big fan of their store. The staff in there are really good people.
Seems to be the only place I can get MS Detail. Also, is there?
Yeah,
MS Detail. I mean, as for also the Ico Roof Fast, you know, the roll-on asphalt.
That's good stuff.
Stick.
I like that stuff.
Yeah, that's a Roof Mart product. I haven't seen that anywhere else as well.
Right.
It's ups and downs, but yeah, I know you're wanting to close here, I think, soon, but we went off topic outside of winter roofing. Another thing I think we should talk about briefly is just the equipment and tools that we use and the effect that the negative temperatures can have on that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we do to prevent freezing and seizing, and what we use to maybe allow for our compressors to continue to operate at sub-zero temperatures?
Oh, yeah. Well, we can say that our machines become addicted to methanol.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, you got to put, methanol is absolutely needed after a minus 15, even below that, because your lines will freeze up. So you gotta inject that into the lines, with maybe a little bit of lubricant as well. I like to put a little bit of gun lube in there as well. And then it just keeps the guns flowing and going. But I mean, the winter time is very rough on the equipment. You got to make sure you're using winter lubricants, not just for the guns, but for the engines, just like you would with your vehicle.
Right.
If you lick your hammer in the cold, your tongue will stick to it. So that's not. Don't recommend.
Some people learn that the hard way.
I know. Yeah. The staplers. Yeah, that what we use to fasten the underlayments tend to jam up quite a bit. So yeah, I mean that's why it's like essentially that's why I don't get it. Like some of these like roofing companies are just like, yeah, anytime, whenever you want, just roof in the wintertime. It's minus 40, don't worry about it. It's like, dude, like the guys out there, like they want to be out there. It's like a famous man once said, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Right. Yeah, that's a good summary.
Yeah. So that's basically it. I gotta say for winter roofing. Right. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I was trying to think of other things. There's probably a few more. I mean, I can go into the kind of ailments you might come across inside your attic and on the roof itself as well when we have sub-zero temperatures. If I could give one piece of advice for any listeners, it'd be worthwhile poking your head up inside the attic when we have extremely cold conditions, not only for condensation issues, seeing the amounts of frost and ice you might have on the underside of the roof decking, but this time of year, dare I say, the majority of the calls that we get pertain to people seeing either moisture or staining or water dripping from the bath fan. And I think if you were to look up in your attic, try to look at where the exhaust hose from the bath fan actually connects to the exhaust port on the roof, because these areas, if they are not airtight, can allow for large amounts of frost and ice buildup. I even found an icicle almost the size of my forearm dangling from the insulated flex hose for the bathroom system, because most home builders, whether it be a large neighborhood or a cookie cutter type neighborhood, they use the cheapest building products they can find. If you look on your roof and you see tin goosenecks, usually galvanized tin goosenecks or black, if you can tell it looks a little metal in construction, try to take a look inside your attic to see whether or not the exhaust hose for the fan is connected or not. Sometimes I see the exhaust hose a couple inches from the gooseneck, like completely less than airtight, in some cases not connected at all. So that might be one thing.
Well, that's one reason why we're getting rollback right now on some of our HVACs, is because we actually do a proper connection. Yeah. And a lot of people think that a leak from their bath fan is a leak from the roof, and it's not. It's the vast majority of the time it's just the residual inside of the pipe. But that being said, that can be mitigated. I don't know if it can be completely eliminated, but it can be fixed.
Unless you had... Well, there are upgraded bath fans you can get. Panasonic makes really nice ones that can switch between 80 CFM and 110.
Oh, yeah.
If you had it switched to 110.
One of those.
Yeah, I also would like to do that. A nice bath fan combined with a timer switch as well, which I would also be
way better.
But what I would also be installing as well, because I saw one the other day. It was like 5, 10, 30, even 60, up to 2-hour timer switch for bath fans. If you ran the fan constantly and had a very powerful CFM fan, you could probably almost completely eliminate moisture from inside that hose.
Right.
But
yeah,
again,
that's the thing. Runtime is a big deal.
Yeah, a flex hose, though, in its own, if it's not stretched tight, moisture will rest in the ridges of that hose. So, I mean, you could probably drastically reduce the amount of condensation in the pipe, but probably not completely eliminate it unless it's a hard pipe.
Well, that's why you want to run the pipe for a couple feet under the insulation. For one, you stack enough insulation, it won't freeze, and then as you run the fan, it'll evaporate and blow it all out. But yeah, there's always going to be. That's why you need a little catch. It's almost like a P-trap. You can't actually make a P-trap because that messes things up.
I have found big, huge blocks of ice in those more than once.
The P-trap would work good if it was insulated. But it doesn't. It just freezes and builds and
so it's hanging.
Yeah, no, you can't. You can't do the P-trap. We've been there, tried that, didn't work.
Yeah, trial and error, right?
A lot of trial and error. Another thing I like to say too is, I mean, minus 20, minus 30, whatever. Take a look inside that attic, just like you said. Even after you've had work done to get rid of the condensation, I always say, just make sure you don't have it before you assume, like I think it's like a standard thing we do. We say, when we fix your ventilation, still check.
Yeah, of course. I would also advise looking for weather stripping around the attic hatch if you are going to open it. Also another important thing to have. I usually find lots of frost and ice and mold inside the hatch walls. Right.
Yeah, that could be bad. It could also be that could also be due to bad placement of the attic hatch. I've seen attic hatches in bathrooms before. That's really
that's interesting.
Really stupid place to put it. It's pretty rare, but you'll see that. But and if you can't open an attic hatch yourself, or you just don't want to look in your attic hatch yourself, you can always give us a call. $145 plus GST. That being said, we have been again nominated to be the top choice winners this year. So we need your vote today, and when you do that, you will enter for a chance to win $500 cash and keep us on top where we belong. And thank you for all those who voted us for the last 2 years. We are we are wearing the belt, the title, so to speak, 2 years in a row. Heavyweight champion, No Pain Roofing. Keep us going. We rely on you guys. And thanks for tuning in, and bye for now.
I think I had a funny story I wanted to tell quickly when you were talking about the methadone antifreeze.
Oh, yeah.
It's
methanol.
Methanol, my methadone.
What is that? Is what people take when
that's
they
the rehab stuff, right?
Yeah.
No, my mistake. Methanol, methadone,
okay.
Meth. We have to disconnect the hoses in order to inject that into our lines. Quick story. Bo, one of our other contractors, he had those glass fart bombs, like with and he had a syringe, and so he broke one. He sucked up all that fart juice into one of the syringes we use, and when he was disconnecting people's hoses to inject the methanol, he was injecting the fart stink, and so he had videos of us shooting our guns, wondering what's going on. Just
I remember that day.
Nobody knew what was going on, but of course he was putting fart juice in the hoses, and that was a good memory I had when you brought that up. Anyways, I don't mean to prolong this. I thought
no, it's okay. No, that's a good story. That's a good way to end her. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next
Thank you.
week. Whee!